Welcome to STEM Talk with STEMencounters. I'm your host and CEO of STEMencounters, Saif Panjwani.
And I'm Shazali. I'm the co-host and COO of STEM Encounters.
And what we do is that we basically run a student-led profit known as STEM Encounters.
Yeah, so basically what our nonprofit is, it's called STEM Encounters. And what we do is we just try to spread STEM to anyone who wants to learn. We go into material sciences. We have many different courses. We have this podcast. And yeah, so our main goal is just to spread STEM and material science to anyone who wants to learn about it.
Exactly. And this podcast right here is centered on material science and engineering, a passion of mine, and a very fun topic that Shaz and I try to explore.
Yeah.
Again, you can find us on our online courses. We have events that we do, in-person events, blog posts, and we even do just spread information about STEM. So just find us on STEMencounters.com. We have Instagram as well, STEM_encounters. We have a YouTube channel, STEM Encounters, everything STEM Encounters. So if you
STEM Encounters everywhere.
STEM Encounters is everywhere. So
Yeah.
without further ado, let's get right into the STEM.
Yeah, let's do it.
So today, our first topic, we're going to be talking about quantum entanglement and how it offers unprecedented precision for GPS and even Wi-Fi signals. So a little background on how that works is GPS and Wi-Fi signals are powered by something called radio frequency waves, or RF waves for short. And they carry information from a transmitter at one point to a sensor at another point. And these sensors take the information in a bunch of different and they take this information and they apply it to, for example, where you are in the world, localization, or to give information or Wi-Fi, internet to one object to another. And how they actually work specifically for GPS is that it takes say if there's a satellite orbiting around the Earth, and a satellite sends a signal to the GPS to find out where you are. The time difference it takes is where you are in the world. So it can know where you are at that specific point because of that time difference. And I know when I was reading this, you might be thinking, that time difference is so small that it's immeasurable. But actually, because it's really small, it's very actually easy to get that difference between different parts of the world and get that time difference to know where you are. So now we can actually, this paper about quantum entanglement can go even further. So in this new paper, it talks about how they can combine two new techniques specifically, called radio frequency photonics and quantum metrology. And that might be a lot of jargon, but basically what it is an unheard level of precision, an absolutely unheard level of precision. And so a little bit about quantum metrology.
So quantum metrology is basically it's just a new system that they're using where they use the optical domain. So basically what happens is that, so usually a sensor's limit is 16, it has a 16-foot radius, and that's still pretty small, but with using quantum metrology, it makes it so that the particles can break past the standard limit and take ultra-sensitive measurements. So basically how this works is that they use entangled particles that are tied together. So whatever happens to one particle affects all the particles. So basically, an example that may make you understand this better is like, let's say if you picture a supervisor and an employee working together on a project. So it may take time sometimes for them to communicate with each other because they have to use email, meetings, stuff like that. But let's say if their brains were tangled together, think about how much faster it would be in order to get your work done if your brains were tangled together. I know that might seem kind of weird, but at the same time, it just speeds it up so much more. So that's basically what quantum metrology does in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. And a little bit about how the electron to photon system works. Do you want to go into a little bit about the electron and photon and transducer?
Yeah, sure. So usually what happens is that they use an antenna sensor, but instead they're using something called an optical sensing, which is basically when they convert from electrons to photons. And so the photons use optical sensing. So photons are basically just a unit of light which carry information. So and it is much more efficient than just using antenna. So it makes it so much faster and more efficient. You want to go a little more in depth?
Yeah. So a little bit more about what, first of all, the electron is and why it's going to a photon. An electron, for those of you who don't know, is a stable subatomic particle with a charge of negative electricity, and it's found in all atoms. It's found in all our tables and everything, and it's the primary carrier of electricity in solids and almost all forms of matter. Um, and so what this thermo optical transducer basically means is that it can convert temperature into an optical property, like what you can see. And then that can go even further into something physical. With conserving matter and everything, it can actually convert different objects into optical objects into physical particles, and which is mind blowing. Just to think about it, something being created across the scale like that. It blew my mind a little bit when I was reading it. What about you, Shah?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It just so seems so crazy how they can turn something into like something really physical that you can see. It's really cool.
Yeah, I definitely think it's really cool. And I was actually reading this a little bit more about this, Shaz, and to anyone who's listening, uh, we know that I've talked about how RF waves or radio frequency waves are actually received by a network of sensors,
Yeah.
which process information individually. Like independent employees working with their supervisors, and obviously going in more depth to the analogy Shaz used. But Shaz, do you know what machine learning is?
No, I do not. Can you go into a little bit?
Yeah, so machine learning is how they is an application of artificial intelligence that provides systems the ability to automatically learn and improve from experience without explicitly being programmed. So, for example, I have a Surface Book 2, right? And in the application of OneNote, when you can write on it, like say write equations and formulas, you can actually convert those equations and formulas to text. But when I first did it, when I was at the Microsoft store, when I first converted that information or tried to write like some sort of like calculus or a math algebraic equation, I had to go over it, circle over it, and then click convert to text. But they didn't know my handwriting right away.
Yeah.
So, but as time went on and I kept writing on my own Surface Book 2 and kept writing on it, I did my same handwriting. My handwriting didn't change, but the Surface Book 2 was able to analyze the handwriting better and learn how my handwriting worked.
Oh wow.
Like a real world application of machine learning.
Wow. It's just so crazy how like they can learn about how you do stuff in order to convert it, how a machine can do that. It's kind of crazy, honestly.
Yeah, I think it was mind blowing. And then they actually converted or used this entanglement, the quantum entanglement, with machine learning. So, say for example, if you keep on going to your house often, right? Your
Yeah.
phone has a location services. So if you keep on going to your house often enough, your phone will realize, oh, this is my house, and because of the quantum entanglement, the precision that is offered, if you go to your house over and over, the phone will realize it's your home. And say, for example, you want to go home with Google Maps, you can just click home because of the quantum entanglement and the machine learning combined together,
Oh
which
wow.
was mind blowing.
Yeah, wow. I know for myself, whenever like I want to go home and using GPS, I have to like type in home or like I have to set my home as home. But like that's kind of cool how it just recognizes that it's your home. But at
Yeah.
the same time, it is a little weird how they can just like see where you're going and like kind of see like what it is that you're going to and like how you're. I don't know. It's kind of weird. What do you think?
Yeah, I was thinking about it like by myself, and I thought I was looking around and just thinking, what are the future applications of this? If I keep on going somewhere and it knows where I'm going, are they kind of watching me? And do I feel like my privacy is threatened? Uh, and while these are new advances in science and technology, and even material science and uh, artificial intelligence, I still think how far can they go, right? How far can it go before it's a little too far?
Mhm.
Would you think this is a little too far? Because I'm a little skeptical about
I think you can see it as that, but I also see it as it can be used for good or bad. So, like my point of view is that if we use it for good purposes, such as just like helping you in more convenient ways, as long as this like maybe doesn't get exposed, like such as like a global way where like other countries may have access to this, and then they may
it.
try to like find information about other countries. Like if it doesn't start getting used in that sort of way, I think it's a good thing overall. What do you think?
Uh, I don't know, but I mean, it's definitely a good thing. When I was reading about it, the good thing popped out, eyes open, eyes clear. But then when it's in my brain, I was like, what about the bad things? Say, for example, and let's go back up to the quantum entanglement and the RF waves, right, Chaz?
Yeah,
So we were, say, for example, like military officers or militia, the American Army is going into a base and fighting some sort of battle. Um, and they would know where like say, for example, an army man fell down at the enemy's base. And they would know the last position of it pretty precisely because of this quantum entanglement that it's offered. But if uh, if we keep on thinking about that further, what if they get hands on that? What if they know where we are? Right, right. The enemy knows where
yeah.
we are because of the last position that the ally dropped. The enemy can get that information and know where we are. So then it can also works in a little bit of reverse. I know there's always like good and bad to this. There's always like a point of view on how this technology is being used, but I definitely think that we also have to consider the negative.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. That definitely, like, if it gets used in a more bigger scale, more global scale, that maybe yeah, this can turn for the worse. But I think for now, like, we have to see where this goes, what these people who created this desire, like, what they want to do with it. I think if it's used at a smaller level so far, like, let's say if you're just using it for GPS or just for Find My iPhone, whatever that is for now, it'll make life a lot more convenient, a lot better for now. But yeah, it definitely needs to be looked at in a more cautious way
Yeah,
because it's just so precise. It's crazy.
yeah, it's absolutely mind blowing.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was our portion of a little bit of quantum entanglement. And now we're going to go take a little step back into look what material science has done for the world.
Yeah. All right, so next we're going to go into our historical section where today we're going to discuss how the opium trade and how opioid overall has just how science has been able to affect this and decrease the opioid epidemic all across the world.
Mhm.
So I'm going to give a little history. So basically the beginning of the opium trade began in the 18th century when Great Britain grew opioid in India and then sold it to China. And the reason they did this is because there was a chronic trade imbalance between China and Great Britain. This is because Great Britain wanted to trade with China to get all their porcelain silks, their tea, everything like that. But China didn't have anything that Great Britain really wanted. So every time that they wanted to trade with them, they always gave them gold and silver, which is very valuable. So instead, they started growing opium in India, and then they started selling it to China, which kind of solved this trade imbalance. And opium is just an overall really addictive drug. So it's really bad that they did this, but it did solve their trade imbalances. So that's a little bit of background, and I think Saif will get into what is going on now in science that's helping this.
Yeah, so yeah, as you know, the opioid uh, epidemic is massive around the world, but material science and engineering has come along and kind of reduced it. So before I want to get into the material science portion, I want to talk about what people have actually done to reduce this epidemic. So many people across America have created virtual technology focused on preventing addiction in teens, to even a screening app by medical professionals to identify patients with risk factors for opioid abuse. So people know based on technology who's doing opioids and how much they're doing, and what we can do ultimately to help by getting these to the medical professionals. Then with material science and engineering, as you know, that field has taken a step further by analyzing the composition and of what people have on them, of in their cell phones, wallets, backpacks, and see if it matches up with opium. And if that does, then they know that teens have opium. And because of material science and engineering, we know that we can give them to medical professionals and then they can help them overall. Now, reading this, I thought it was amazing that we're going in the step in the right direction. We're helping people with addiction, but then also we're also analyzing people's phones, wallets, and backpacks. That kind of goes to a little bit of an extreme. Uh, that we're are we violating any personal risk, any privacy issues? What do you think?
I think that while it is tough to distinguish like let's say if you're in school and then like if it like sometimes you're like so let's say if a teacher wants to check your locker or something, you're like, wait, you don't have permission to do that. It's kind of tough to distinguish what's right and what's wrong in those kind of situations.
Mhm.
But I feel like if the person like let's say if a police officer has evidence or something like that that you have this that you have opium on you, then they should have permission to check you and check your phone because that's a matter of like life and death. That you're being risked. So I think it's definitely a step in the right direction as long as they don't over abuse the power to like check phones and check backpacks and stuff like that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that you're definitely right that as long as like there's no abuse in power, as long as we go along, and it definitely is helpful. Right now, they're using it for helpful needs, and I don't think they'll go to an extreme. Now that you said it aloud, because if there's some like basic amendment rights that we have
Yeah.
to protect us with everything, and
Mhm.
it's good that we're taking the step in the right direction, but I don't see us taking a step in the wrong direction unless something drastic happens.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, and also a little quick that I wanted to talk about. Last year, the FDA cleared the first medical device designed to reduce symptoms of opioid withdrawal. The device is called the NeuroStim System Bridge and is placed behind the patient's ears and analyzing the obviously composition of opioids with that and electrical pulses are directed to stimulate different areas of the brain to reduce symptoms of opioid withdrawal. So you kind of so having that behind your ear, you can have less like the drug effects by analyzing what opioid is, and then sending electrical impulses to the brain to reduce those types of effects. If and I think that's kind of amazing. That I know withdrawal for a lot of individuals is a tough thing to go through, and it's a tough thing to ultimately endure. And having this will not only like lessen your chances of going back into addiction, but just help you overall, like your quality of life. I think this is great. What do you think, Shaz?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, that's a great way to like make sure that people are staying safe, and
Mhm.
that like definitely I think that's a better strategy than the one you mentioned before,
Yeah.
because this is something that like people can do to stay safe. And what do you think about if people say like I don't want to use this? What do you think that they should do then?
I think I think ultimately we have to look at the look what it's the quality of life that it'll give it to them, because if they don't want to use it, if it tampers with them and they don't want something in their brains like that,
Yeah.
then ultimately I think it's their choice and they can endure it however they wish.
Mhm.
But overall, I think going through that process and making sure uh, uh, going through the process with the symptoms, not sorry, to reduce the symptoms with the electrical impulses is ultimately beneficial for overall. If they don't want to go through that, I think we have to respect that.
Yeah.
I know material science and engineering can only go so far, but I guess the people have to take the next step too. And some people don't, which is completely acceptable.
I think about it is that like no matter what, I feel like this like topic we're discussing right now, it's like it has to do with life and death. So
Yeah.
I do feel like it's very important for people
Mhm.
to use this because this technology is revolutionary. It can help so many people. So I don't know if like if it's that bad and then if they don't want to use it, I think that they should have to, honestly.
Mhm.
Because it's something where like if you don't use it and then you become addicted again, it's again like they can die if this happens. So maybe like they're feeling withdrawal and then they don't want to use it, but still I feel like they should definitely I think it should be something mandatory that if you yeah, that if you're if you're in recovery then you have to use it.
Yeah, yeah, I guess. I guess that's a completely valid point. Shifting on a little bit further, I was looking throughout my computer and I was just like typing, reading these articles, having the time of my life, and I came across something that I think is a little interesting. So, do you know what you know the trackpad that we have in our laptops, right?
Yeah.
So that is made of usual trackpads are made out of glass and aluminum. That's what it says. And a trackpad is the same design as an Apple's wireless keyboard, so it can be flush. So, and I was reading this, and I was thinking that like the glass and aluminum that all trackpads are made with, how do you think that they get like that precision?
I don't know.
You don't know? Because I was thinking that the glass and not the precision to go on the computer, but essentially the precision of how where they're sensing it, which I think is like a completely revolutionary type of how they can use materials to pinpoint where you are in a certain on the computer or where you are just overall. Going back a little bit to the quantum entanglement thing, the reason I had to talk about it is that could we integrate quantum entanglement with trackpads and these input devices? What do you think if that happened? The ultimate precision. Say if you're playing a game or you have some sort of profession that requires you to be precise. Uh, I think that's like another benefit of when you click, it can go even further.
Yeah, that's something definitely where it could be very beneficial. Let's say if someone's like an engineer or something like that, to be able to be that precise
Yeah.
by using this sort of technology is something that can be very beneficial, especially for someone who's just starting out in their new field or something. Or like let's say like it'll definitely be hard to learn maybe like if since it's so precise on your laptop, but I feel like it'll definitely be worth it in the long run to be able to use that.
Yeah, I definitely think so too.
That's a cool point, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up because I saw it. Now, as we've seen, like STEM is changing and material science is changing.
Yeah.
Um, and I want to wrap up our first episode knowing where you can find us. You can find us on STEMencounters.com. Shah said it, I said it, Instagram, STEM_encounters, YouTube channel, where this will be also on STEM Encounters. It's on Spotify too. If you just search up STEM Encounters, everything is STEM Encounters.
So we're also taking donations. So we're taking donations where we're definitely going to put it back into STEM Encounters. We're going to grow even bigger, and we're going to use it for other purposes that safe if you want to go into a little bit.
Yeah, so we've actually made this recently public. So I'm going to announce it on the podcast. What we're doing with those donations so far, STEM Encounters is 501c3 certified. So that means we do it's tax exempted, so you can donate to us. And what that basically means is that we're going to take those donations and we're going to spread the STEM back out. We're trying to create these care packages, and then we're going to send it to local communities filled with our Arduino kits, material science and engineering lessons, and just overall STEM related items so that people who are not able to learn this type of information can still get it. And that's where all of it is going for right now, the donation. So whatever you donate to us goes right back into STEM.
Yeah.
And you're doing something great. You're spreading STEM around the world. So if you can donate, it'd be great. If you can't, just listen and learn.
Yeah.
So, Shaz, do you have anything to add?
I think we covered everything. I think we went into a good amount of STEM today, went into a good amount of material science. We learned something new. I think I learned something new from SAFE today too. So if you guys have any questions at all, make sure we have a blog.
Yeah.
You can definitely comment back at us if you have any questions about our podcast, anything at all. Just let us know, and we'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah, we are happy to answer anything. We have everything up, and we're going to be posting all these articles below. So if you want to check them out for yourselves, definitely check them out. And if you find any misconceptions, we're learning with you guys too.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm all about material science and engineering and all about STEM. So just make sure you put it down below, like the comments, and we'll try to fix it. We'll try to reply to you. We'll try to learn more from you as you learn from us. Let's wrap it up.
Thank you all for listening.
Thank you for listening. And yeah, just thank you. See you later. See you on the next one.
Bye.